Welcome everyone to this week's edition of the Focus TV. Joined as always, we got Xavier Wyatt, Raymond Lyons. I'm Wilson Turpay Jr. And we got quite a bit to get through. We missed y'all last week. You were actually, out being busy working in the field and whatnot. So happy to be back this week. Octavia, it's Combine week, which usually means a whole bunch of noise about all types of stuff. What you got for us in, the official first NFC East off-season update?
Yeah, so like you said, Combine is this week. They've had multiple press conferences with coaches, GMs, and everything. So looking forward to that happening later this week. But just some couple of things that's been talked about for each team. I know, like you said, we weren't here last week, so some things that you guys may have missed out on. We'll start with the hometown Washington Commanders. If you hadn't heard, Eric Bieniemy has been officially named as their new offensive coordinator, coming over from the Kansas City Chiefs. There's been a lot of talk back and forth about how good or bad of a move this is and how he will do in Washington. So I'm excited to see it. We're always here for a black man getting a job, especially even though he deserves a different type. But, at this point, I'm just happy that he's able to get, it seems like maybe he just wanted a fresh start to show that he can do it probably from the ground up, I guess. I don't know. But if you don't believe him at this point, I don't know what you're doing. But neither here nor there. Another big news that came out from the Washington Commanders this week, Carson Wentz has officially been cut from the Washington Commanders, his third team in the last 3 years. It's bad for Carson out here in these streets. They released him, freeing up over $26 million in salary cap space for 2023. So definitely needed. It seems like they're going to be going with Sam Howell right now. But again, like we talked about, the Combine is this week, and there are reports that they are going to pay very, very close attention to the Combine this week to figure out maybe there's some special gem in the draft this year, because I don't even know where they're ranked at in a draft as far as picks, or what they would be willing to do to try to move up to try to get somebody, but we shall see. Also, Bobby McCain was also released, slot cornerback / safety, which also saves Washington $4.42 million against the salary cap. It's like calories. What am I doing out here? So another notable release. I still don't think they've made a decision on Chase Young's contract as well. So that's something that they're also going to be looking into this offseason. Probably one of the first franchise tags that have been official. They tagged defensive tackle Daron Payne, which to me was kind of a no-brainer. They should probably really be looking at getting a deal done, because, yeah, he had an amazing year, and he's definitely somebody that I'm sure they want to come back next year. If they don't, send him on down the road to Philadelphia. We'll take him as well. But probably the biggest story that is Washington Commanders related, but not necessarily football related, is this daggone Dan Snyder. I'm sure that we'll get into something about that later. But Dan Snyder is doing a lot of Dan Snyder things. Apparently, he doesn't want to sell the franchise for less than $6 billion. $6 billion. And he's also looking for assurances that he won't face prosecution if he sells the team. Seems a little bit underhanded, which all of us live here in the area. Not surprising for Daniel Snyder things. I'm sure more and more will continue to come out about this story. I think the last thing I read was that it has something to do with a credit line that he took out unbeknownst to the other owners of the franchise. So there's a lot going on with that. And I don't understand how he's doing that right in the heart of DC, where they do a lot of this criminal investigation types things. So the Washington Commanders have a lot going on, but I'm sure they're trying to focus in on the football aspect of it with the Combine coming up. So from Washington, I'll go to Philadelphia. Philadelphia, as we talked about a couple weeks ago, lost both of their coordinators, offensive coordinator as well as defensive coordinator. They have finally filled those two positions as the last two positions in the NFL as far as defense and offensive coordinators needing to be done. So they did promote quarterback coach Brian Johnson to the new offensive coordinator. obviously the job he did with Jalen Hurts is definitely a good sign. And to keep the continuity with Jalen is top tier. Is probably the most important thing. As we know, the couple of years before he didn't have the same play caller, and he hadn't had the same play caller, I think he said, since high school, like for consecutive years, which is wild. So to have to do it 2 years with Shane and then have to start over again with somebody else, is nice that at least he gets to keep his quarterback coach to get some continuity there. And on the defensive side, they hired Sean Desai. Desai was associate head coach of the Seahawks for one season after spending 8 years with the Chicago Bears from 2013 to 2021, serving as their defensive coordinator, safeties coach, and defense quality control coach. I love the fact that, I talked about it before, that some of the candidates that they were looking at were African American. Now, granted, Sean Desai isn't an inside the team hire, but it's nice to see both our coordinators, African American, getting an opportunity, and honestly, now that I think about it, all three of the coordinators are African American, with Mike Clay, who also is a special teams coordinator, who actually just re-signed for an additional year and a raise. Now, I'm going to be completely honest. I don't know about the raise. Special teams was probably the weakest position group. So he has a lot of work cut out for him, but they do believe that he has, the wherewithal to be able to take care of it and be able to increase that unit, because it's definitely going to be something that needs to be looked at next year. Yeah, so those are the big news. Still trying to figure out what the contract situation is going to be for Jalen. We know he's getting re-signed. This time some week was what they were shooting for, sometime the week of the combine. Last I've heard, somewhere in the area of $50 million a year. Not surprised. He deserves every penny. Don't let him walk out the door. Waiting to hear more about, since the league year is getting ready to come up on the 15th. That's why you're hearing a lot of people being released, people getting cut, to figure out what's going on. There's a lot of pending free agents that the Philadelphia Eagles have, and I'm interested to see who gets re-signed, who they have to let go. So hopefully we'll see how that shakes out. Not too much news pretty much for the Dallas Cowboys. It's pretty much the same thing. I don't think they had made the announcement the last time we talked about it. Kellen Moore, of course, left as offensive coordinator, and he's now with the Chargers. The Dallas Cowboys did hire Brian Schottenheimer, who will now be their offensive coordinators. Mike McCarthy is still expected to call plays as of now. From what I've heard, maybe things will change as the year goes on. But they seem confident for him to be the the voice in Dak's ear next season. But we know things can change the closer we get to the beginning of the season. And of course, the biggest thing is just the contract negotiations that are going to go on for the Dallas Cowboys as well. Wide receiver CeeDee Lamb and cornerback Trayvon Diggs are both eligible for contract extensions now. Also, of course, the contract, would they possibly extend Dak? That's a hot topic right now as well. And then, of course, what are they going to do at the running back position with Zeke Elliott as well as Tony Pollard? Zeke still has, I think, 2 or 4 years left on his extension that he signed in 2019. And of course, Tony Pollard is coming off of a devastating fibula fracture. So it'll be interesting to see what they end up doing. It's already been reported that Zeke is willing to take less money to help because he's a big cap hit. And they definitely have a lot of people that they probably need to pay. So it'll be interesting to see if they franchise tag Tony Pollard, even though he's coming off of the ankle injury. Are they going to be cautious with the extension just because, the same thing that they did with Zeke, are they going to do it again with Tony and hopefully not end up in the same position, but you never know. Last but not least, not a lot going on with the New York Giants as well. Probably the biggest thing right now, the Giants are releasing wide receiver Kenny Golladay, who I've talked about all year as stealing money. He was stealing money all year, stealing checks to do nothing, and they are tired of it. So he has been informed that he will be released at the start of the year, which again is on March 15th. The Giants will save $6.7 million against the salary cap by waiting until that date. Despite the release Galladay will still earn a 4.5 million cash roster bonus. So again, still stealing money. Even on his way out, he's stealing some money on his way out. And obviously the big news as far as for them is hoping that they can re-sign Daniel Jones as well as Saquon Barkley. It does appear that they're more focused on re-signing Daniel Jones. They're hoping that they're able to get Saquon as well, but I mean, I think we all know wide receivers positions are kind of a dime a dozen. They always feel like they can get a new one, especially because it's probably the position that gets hurt a lot outside of quarterbacks. So they're hoping that they're able to. Both of them are scheduled to become unrestricted free agents on the 15th. Daniel Jones just recently got new representation, which kind of scares me for them because it makes me feel like he's trying to get some new people in there to get him some more money. I don't know how much Daniel Jones thinks he's worth. I hope he doesn't think he's 50 million or more. But the change in representation makes me feel like maybe he does. So it'll be interesting to see what they end up doing with that. Will they keep him? Will they let him walk? There's a lot of, I mean, we all know if you don't have a quarterback, you don't have anything. So you got to have a short up guy. Daniel Jones had a decent season last year with his first year under Daboll. But we still have to be real. I think they say he threw 15 touchdowns in the whole year. Now, granted, he didn't have a whole lot of weapons around him. So that's something that they will be looking into with the combine coming up this week and then the draft as well. So just looking forward to see how everything shakes out with the draft, especially who's going to throw, who's not going to throw. Because I don't understand how you're going to the combine, you're not throwing, but whatever. Just they're just going to go to meetings and meet with all the teams, I'm guessing. So it'll be interesting to see how the combine shakes out this week and what happens going forward.
For sure. Like you said, that March 15th date is getting closer and closer. Oh my Lord, someone just got dunked on. Sorry, it looked bad. I apologize. Y'all will see it if you have a Twitter account. If you're on Wizards Twitter, it's probably gonna be on a loop. And not the good kind either. It's something that happened to you, not something that y'all did. One of the bigs just got baptized by one of the bigs in Atlanta. Like you said, March 15th, always fun. My favorite time of year in the NFL is watching people renege on the contracts they gave people like 2 years ago. And then, 3 years in the deal. I don't want you anymore. What'd they do wrong? I might have to pay you that money I put it back into that deal. It's time to get you out of it. Gotta love the NFL contract situation. All right, Ray. I ain't mean to steal your thunder with mentioning the Wizards already, but what you got for us?
Yeah, they are in the second quarter right now against the Hawks. Despite being on the wrong end of a highlight, they are up at the moment, 43-38. Hopefully they can continue to stellar play. Bradley Beal's off to a pretty decent start. He's got 13 at the moment. And Kuz is playing pretty well, 14 points in a rebound, 5 for 9. He's only shot 2 threes and got into the free throw line 4 times. Imagine that. He's he's being intentional about, being aggressive and getting to the basket, and it's bearing results. Who'd have thunk it? But yeah, man, they need a win in the worst way. They are 0-2 coming out of All-Star break, and and the guys behind them in the standings are nipping at their heels, and their cushion is running out at a rapid pace. So they got to start getting on getting some marks in the W column. But just like we've been talking about all season, it's their inconsistency on offense and their non-commitment to the defensive end. It's been the same script the entire year. We were talking on Wizards Outlook the other day, like all their losses pretty much follow the same program, so even the other day against the Bulls, they came out in the first half, played pretty decent, but poor shot selection and bad defense turned it to a 20-point blowout. So yeah, man, this team is special. They're really hard to figure out. Talent-wise, they should be in a much better spot than they are right now. This is not a 28-32 roster. they got guys that should be able to compete at a higher level than that. But, you don't play the game on paper, and they got to execute on the court on both ends, man. So, and I know guys have been hurt and all that stuff, but it hasn't changed no matter who's on the floor. Whether they have their full complement of guys or guys are out, it still looks the same. So at that point, you got to kind of look inward and see where you can clean things up execution wise. But yeah, man, they're in a dogfight with the Hawks right now, who are a couple spots above them in the standings. And yeah, this win they'll gain a little ground, but they, just like in seasons past, they just kind of dug themselves into a hole, and now they got to do extra work to get out of it. If there's any positive, they got a pretty home heavy schedule heading down the stretch. So that's working in their favor. But yeah, at the end of the day, they still got to handle business. So, we'll see what happens, man. They're currently sitting in 10th. That's the last play-in spot. And that's their own doing. In my opinion, they should be higher than that. But, here we are. It's 20 games left in the season. You are what your record says you are. So yeah, man, they got to turn it around, man, and try to gain some momentum heading into the backstretch of the season.
For sure. And like you said, I think the last couple of times on Wizards Outlook, we've been mentioning it. Every time we talk to you guys after Wizards game, and that's one less opportunity they have. Like that's honest to goodness the best way to think about it. Like Ray said, it's sad that almost, this season is almost played out to a script on a nightly basis, which is at one point, like, you would want to probably change the script, right? I mean, I'd imagine you're tired of living like that, but maybe not. There's 20 games left in the 82-game season, and you are where you are. You're watching the Focus TV. We're going to take a quick break. When we get back, college basketball segment, which, is a little lengthy this week. We had CIAA, both men's and women's. You got GW. Man, you got a lot of teams wrapping up their regular season, and in some cases their postseason. So that's why, take a couple deep breaths, and when we get back, jump into this week's college basketball segment. You are watching the Focus TV. Welcome back to the Focus TV, as promised. This week's college basketball segment. We'll start off with GW men's basketball. They picked the perfect time to go on one of its most prolific scoring stretches of the season, putting together a 19-3 run midway through the second half that turned what was a close game, a 4-point game, into a 20-point rout on its way to a 92-85 win against LaSalle, avenging an earlier loss in Philly this season. James Bishop IV put on another memorable offensive performance, finished with game highs of 29 points and 9 assists, continuing his dominance against A-10 defenses as a premier playmaker, distributor, and scorer at all three levels. His 29 came on 10 of 19 field goals, 4 of 6 from 3, 5 of 6 at the line, and he played 38 minutes. So he put in a full shift, nearly a full shift. We're going to round up. It was a full shift. 38 minutes is 38 minutes. Hunter Dean, he had his second career high 21 points, and then they came in consecutive games at that. Ricky Lindo finished with 16 points and 11 rebounds, and those two combined to shoot 14 and 16 from the floor. So about efficiency, that's absurd. Noah Explorer scored more than 14 as the Colonials held us out, a 40% shooting from the field, while George Washington countered. They went 58.6% from the floor. Just 2 games remain in the regular season for GW. The final road trip awaits on Wednesday at Davidson at 7 p.m. on ESPN Plus before a massive showdown with league-leading VCU in the regular season finale a week from today on Saturday, March 4th. It's a nationally televised game on USA at 4:30. As for the CIAA tournament, we're going to start on the women's side. Number 5 seed Elizabeth City State relied on a stingy defense to top the 6 seed Shaw 55-40 for its first ever CIAA women's basketball title at CFG Bank Arena on Saturday. With the victory, the Vikings, who finished the year 20-10 overall, earned the league's automatic berth to the NCAA Division II tournament in the Atlantic region. Shaw, which was seeking its 12th CIAA title, ended its season at 18-14 overall. This was the Vikings' second straight trip to the finals after falling to Lincoln last season, and ECSU made the most of it thanks to its defense. The Vikings limited Shaw to 25% shooting, 12 of 48 for the contest. Holding the team to 25% shooting is ridiculous. The Bears could not find a mark from three-point range either. They shot 0 for 9 attempts, did not hit anything, and no player scored in double figures. Brittany Seymour was the Bears' top scorer with 9 points. Dejanique Armfield led a balanced Elizabeth City State scoring attack with 13 points. Mariam Hashim added 10 points, and 5 players scored 7 or more points for the Vikings, who shot 36.4% from the field. Both teams entered the title game with stellar defensive reputations. As you can see, with the when the team that won shot 36%, yeah, I would say that both teams lived up to their defensive reputations. The Vikings and Bears were number 1 and number 2 respectively in the conference in fewest points allowed per game. Again, both teams lived up to their billings in the first period. Neither team mustered much offense as the Vikings led 10-6 entering the second half. 10-6. The Vikings trio of Naisha Blanco, Armfield, and King was selected to the CIAA All-Tournament team, with Blanco named the Foods Lion Tournament MVP. Below is the CIAA Women's Basketball All-Tournament list. Nia Langley from Virginia Union, Raja Todd, Virginia State, Kanaya Pollock, Lincoln, Shania Jones, Johnson C. Smith, Tori Reed, Johnson C. Smith, Naija Blanco, Elizabeth City State, Dejanique Armfield, Elizabeth City State, Brittany Seymour out of Shaw, Tanasia London out of Shaw, and Akia King, Elizabeth City State. Food Lion Tournament MVP, Naija Blanco out of Elizabeth City State. And the Team Sportsman Award was given to Johnson C. Smith University. On to the CIAA Men's Championship. Winston-Salem State are the 2023 CIAA Men's champs after a big second-half run helped the fifth-seeded Rams reclaim control and defeat the sixth-seeded Lincoln 62-57 in the title game at CFG Bank Arena on Saturday. The championship is the 13th in the Rams' storied basketball history, including 2 under head coach Cleo Hill Jr. The win also earned the Rams, who finished the season 21-8 overall, the regular season that is, an automatic bid to the NCAA Division II playoffs, also in the Atlantic region. This coming from Coach Cleo Hill Jr. You cannot come to Winston-Salem and not expect to win division championships and conference championships and advance to the NCAA tournament. It's just a part of the deal when you are a coach or a player here. Led by 14 points from Samaji Teal and 11 each from Jalen Gibson and John Hicklin, the Rams staved off a late comeback from a feisty Lincoln team that was making its very first appearance in the CIAA title game. After falling behind by double digits at halftime, the Lions outscored the Rams 16-5 to knock the score at 34 midway in the second half. The Rams were not deterred by the rally as they responded with a 17-8 run of their own to take a 51-42 lead with 1 minute and 29 seconds left. That run ultimately was the difference, but not before the Lions put another scare in the Rams. Give me 1 second. I want to make sure I don't mess this gentleman's name up. But Kerry Cleveland made one or two free throws as Lincoln climbed within 56-52 with as little as 34 seconds left. Corey Williams later connected on a deep three-pointer to cut the deficit even further to 60-57 with 1 second left. But Teal, the hero in the semifinal win over Virginia Union, made both free throws to ice the game. Jalen Alston was named the Food Lion Tournament MVP. Xavier Fennell both added 8 points for the Rams, who out-rebounded the Lions 47-26, including a 16-5 advantage on the offensive boards. That's a hell of an advantage and second chance opportunities. Both teams shot 35% from the floor, but the Rams made 26 of their 43 free throw attempts compared to the Lions, who went 14-17 from the charity stripe. Lincoln placed 3 scores in double figures, led by 14 points from Reggie Hudson. Williams added 12 points, and Freddie Young Jr. contributed 11 off the bench for the Lions, who scored 15 points off 20 WSSU turnovers. The Rams trio of Alston, Gibson, and Teal were named to the CIAA Men's All-Tournament team. Below is a list of the All-Tourney players. Trey Richardson, Elizabeth City State. Caleb Coleman, Fayetteville State. Bakir Cleveland, Lincoln. Reggie Hudson, also from Lincoln. Jamari Roberts, Shaw. Robert Osborne, Virginia Union. Khalif Tate, Virginia Union. And then the final 3 members were from Winston-Salem State, being Jalen Alston, Jalen Gibson, and Samaji Teal. Food Line Tournament MVP was Jalen Alston, and the CIAA Sportsmanship Award went to Shaw University. All right, moving on to Maryland Women's. Let me get this queued up real quick for you guys. They had a lot going on since the last time we talked. But the prior segment that we had with you, they were heading into the last 3 games of this the regular season. They faced Michigan State, then they hosted 6th-ranked Iowa, Caitlin Clark, and then they finished on the road against 16th ranked Ohio State. 2 of those 3 again were on the road. They started off by beating Michigan State 66-61. The Terps used 2 third-quarter runs to take control of the game, 11-2 and then 13-3. Neither team shot the ball well, but Maryland was able to rely on their defense to see them through. Diamond Miller led the way with 29 points. Last Tuesday, they hosted Caitlin Clark in Iowa. And let me tell y'all that Xfinity Center was on one. Coach Blood, give me 1 second because I do not want to mess up her name because it was just really Lisa Bluter, the head coach of Iowa. If you guys are familiar, she hardly ever has anything positive to say when her team loses. She tried to minimize the 9,000 people that showed up to support the Terps in this game. Said, we're used to crowds bigger than this. Is this good for Maryland, she said, to start off her presser. That said, keep in mind what Brenda's all-time record is against Iowa, what have you. That said, Coach Blutter's team showed up to Maryland last Tuesday, and I'm trying to find a nice way to say it. They had hands put on them, which is why this statement was so reckless. Keep in mind, this statement came after this. Iowa beat Maryland at home a couple weeks ago. Cool. Iowa was really hot. Caitlin Clark had 42 points. Diamond Miller got a foul trouble early in that game. Maryland tried to come back. They just couldn't, right? Cool. But they're going to see each other again. Fast forward a couple weeks, a.k.a. last Tuesday, 96-68. That's what happened, 96-68. Brenda had time. Caitlin Clark had 42 points. Batman believes in prep work. Brenda believes in a box of one. And the 2 players that shared that box of one assignment was Lavender Briggs and Cheyenne Sellers. They did a really good job on Caitlin Clark. She had 18 points, and 8 of those 10 points came after the game was over. It was decided, but she worked for her 18. That said, Renee Alexander and Lavender Briggs combined for 43 points off the bench. They broke the game open with a 27-8 second quarter, much of which was done with Diamond Miller got her second foul 30 seconds into the second quarter. So everything went left for Iowa with Diamond Miller on the bench. So again, back to those comments. Very interesting. It's an interesting way to talk about what happened. Again, the boxing one with Clark, essentially Maryland they said beat us without Caitlin Clark or Monica Sonato, which those 2 combined to score over 60 against Maryland in the game in Iowa. Sellers and Miller added 17 and 16 points, respectively. Maryland forced 10 Iowa's 24 turnovers in the second quarter. Then Friday, Maryland made key plays down the stretch to down Ohio State on the road to ruin Ohio State's senior day, 76-74. Abby Myers had a season-high 24 points, 9 coming in the fourth quarter. Miller and Alexander each added 16 points. And Renee Alexander's been on when she's been shooting the cover off the ball. She had another 4 threes in that game. That was Maryland's 7th win over a ranked team this season. Ohio State was looking for get back because they were at Maryland recently. They left Maryland holding a 36-point L. So you would think that you wanted to get back on your seniors. You want to send your seniors out the right way. Maryland was able to take care of business. And again, the most impressive part for Maryland is their defense. That's what's changed over this season as the season's progressed. Was I think against Iowa, that was probably the most locked in they were, the most focused they were on the defensive end, and that's what it led to. And for this group, you guys know what it is. They don't have any bigs. It's just different size and shaped guards out there. That's what Brenda's rolling out. That's it. All guards, all the time. The center is a 6'1" forward who played guard in high school in Faith Sonis. And, they got to fight and scrap for everything. That said, they ended the regular season on a positive. They'll enter the Big Ten tournament this weekend as the third seed. They were tied with Iowa, but Iowa having split with Iowa gave Iowa the tiebreaker. They'll face either six-seeded Illinois or the winner of Wednesday's Rutgers-Northwestern game on Friday at 9 p.m. It's also award season in the Big Ten, so I'm going to run through this real quick. Then I'm going to take a quick break because I need it. Going through it. All right. Senior Diamond Miller of the 5th-ranked Maryland women's basketball team was a unanimous first-team All-Big Ten selection. Shocker, I think, to no one here. Sophomore Cheyenne Sellers earned first-team honors from the media and second team from the coaches, and she was named to the All-Defensive team. Interesting enough, Diamond Miller not named to the defensive team. Very weird. Multiple 5-steal games this year. Yes, Ray, that face is yes. Thank you. I don't know how many times. Y'all can tell me off the top of your head. Y'all came on here hearing me talk about whatever Maryland did this week. How many times have I said Diamond ended up with 5 steals? Again, Ray's face is Maryland's fan base as a whole. That collective was Diamond Miller, not named to all defensive team. Graduate student Abby Myers was named to the second team by both groups. Senior Faith Masonis earned a sportsmanship award. And shout out to Faith because she came in with Diamond and she's been through hell and back with the ACL injury and just trying to end her career the right way. So again, we'll see what things look like when I talk to you next week. We'll see. We'll have a report on how they did in the Big Ten tournament this year. Then we'll get closer and closer to it's tournament time. We're here. It's that time of year. Things get fun. We are officially here, and I think we're all looking forward to what we're going to take our second break when we get back. Some DC United because they had the season opener in a wonderful 30-degree weather this past Saturday night that I truly enjoyed. You're watching the Focus TV. We will return shortly. Welcome back to the Focus TV. As promised, the first DC United update of the year that's official now because, the curtains are up, no more preseason, everything counts. And we'll get started with what happened this Saturday. I told you guys about the wonderful weather already. But as for the game, they played the season opener Saturday when they hosted Toronto FC. It was a very good first half for the Black and Red. Click would score the season's first goal in the 13th minute. He got the ball in space with Christian Benteke ahead of him. No one came to close out, so he took a few touches before firing a rocket of a shot from about 40, 50 yards out. You guys see this? This is how he felt. The best part about this was 2 plays before this, similar opportunity, but he had already predetermined that he was going to pass the ball. Second time, veteran player like that, he wasn't going to make the same mistake again. Toronto seemed to settle down late in the first half. They created a few chances by playing the ball over the top. DC United struggled with that a little bit. You see one of those chances. But DC United left unscathed, which was big for them. So they went into the half up 1-0. The second half was a bit different. The visitors were able to create a few more quality opportunities, but they didn't get on the board until the 66th minute when Matai Akaboni he fouled Richie Larry in the box. And it was tough for Matai. 16 years old. You're starting in the season opener for Steven Birnbaum. And he's a physical kid, but again, you're 16. So probably a little extra bit of contact is probably what led to the foul being called. But again, you're 16. It's grown men. You're trying to throw your weight around. It's just not knowing quite how to throw your weight around without getting a flag, and that's what caught up to the youngster in that moment. I'm gonna try to get there for you guys because it was tough. Here we go. Here's the play. He's trying to get back in it, but he dove. Veteran dove. He went down. The young man didn't do too much, but the damage was done. So Federico Bernardeschi would convert the penalty kick for Toronto. The visitors would then take a 2-1 lead off a missed set piece in the 83rd minute. Bernardeschi took the kick. He fired a shot to the far post. Miller went to parry it, the keeper for DC United. But unfortunately, the first person to the rebound was wearing a Toronto FC jersey. It was Mark Anthony Kay. He was there to bang the rebound into the back of the net. Rooney inserted one of the team's youngsters around the 67th minute and Ted Pietro. In the 86th minute, he added 2 more kids, and Jackson Hopkins and Christian Fletcher. But first, I want to try to find this goal for you guys because it was kind of a big deal. Like it was a little deflating. I was surprised the crowd didn't let go of the rope at that moment. But here's the free kick for you guys. Big opportunity. The keeper goes to get a hand up on it, and I think what happened is he went to punch it, but I think it got his palm. You guys see the ball bounce right back? Boom. Easy tap in. Nobody home. I think he got this part of his palm on it versus parrying it, and unlucky, right? But DC United, you're down 1 goal right here. You're probably like, let us just try to get a goal, salvage this game. We leave with a point, and life goes on, right? But again, Wayne Rooney, being the manager that he is, he has a lot of faith in the talented kids on his team. He went hard, teams kind of lacking some energy. What do? Put in some brats. What do brats do? They're going to come out here and make a mess, and that's what the kids did. You see Christian Fletcher out here, Takudi Pietro places the ball up top to Benteke. You guys remember hearing me making noise about Benteke last year? This is what they paid him for. He put the ball into the top of the box, and this is something he's done his entire career. This is what people were excited about. The kid didn't do anything too crazy. He just put it up there. He went to go get it. It was really simple. But I feel bad for the poor defender. Something Bob Bradley, Toronto's coach, talked about. You see the little push, got his hands back, got free real quick. It's a big dude, about 6'4", something to deal with up in the air. You got to go fight that. Defender gets pushed. Clearly it was legal. Nobody said anything. It's not his problem. Keep it out of place. Goal. It's tied. This is the best part. Soccer has stoppage time. 8 minutes of stoppage time, which Toronto was probably like, what the heck is this? We're trying to get out of here with 1 point. So this is a prime opportunity they got right here. DC United comes up with the stop. And the worst part is when you're there, we know how the stoppage time is there, but we can't see it like you can on the broadcast. So we don't know exactly when they're going to call final time. Here you go again, Fletcher to Jahiz, and here's Cudi Pietro. Right there, that's it, game winner. You guys see the clock? 97:40. It was nuts at Audi. Buzzards Point went crazy Saturday night, and that's how they chose to open the season. Got to give them credit for it. They didn't hang their hat on it. But again, out in space to the kids, and the reason Fletcher had this much room, as soon as he came in the game earlier, he went at the defender that was in front of him. It didn't work out. Like, they didn't get anything out of it, but all three of those young men came in the game, and unlike what differentiates them a little bit from some of their older counterparts, if it's 1v1, they want all the smoke. There better be somebody else waiting. They're going right at you. So you saw the defender there when Christian got it, kind of give him like 5 yards of pause because the kid's going to go by him. And that's the tough part. That's the great part about it, honestly. Here's a couple notes I had. You guys can go into the full in-depth breakdown. It's up on the Roku channel. But they played out of the back. DC United did a little bit more this year. I spoke with Russell Canals about that after the game. And he said it's something they've worked on during the preseason. They continue to get better at. He also liked the team's overall versatility. And also their mentality. I try to put 2 words together. I'm tired. Sorry, you guys. But yeah, one of the things they haven't done in the past is played out the back. What some teams tried to do against DC United in the past was make them play out the back and hope that they stumble, hope that you get a bad pass. You turn it over. It's akin to turning the ball over in the backcourt in basketball. It's like turning it over on inbounds. It's the last place in the world you want to turn it over at. It's bad business at that point. Instant fast break, somebody gets dunked on, what have you. All good for the other team, right? So they played it out the back. They were much more decisive, especially in that first half. I thought they in the second half, they were just like a beat slow doing everything. Not that they were sloppy, but they're still getting used to each other. But you can see where some of the offseason additions, like Click, is huge. They got a whole veteran point guard in the middle of that field, and it's everything. Every time something got kind of hairy, he went back to go get the ball, bring it up, get people involved just to make sure people were connecting with other folks so they would get stale. And it had an impact. Then second and Robertha were a nice mix together. Didn't take long to see what Click brought to the table. And I feel like the pairing of Click and Knaus in the midfield was good. Knaus mostly a defensive player. And having Click allows Knaus to like just hone in on what he brings to the table. Which Knaus' job is to go eliminate issues before they happen. And if there's an issue, to go neutralize it. And he was running around blowing stuff up. I'm interested to see how that duo continues to grow. I like the Powson and Akamboni as well. I know the kid's not going to play as much going forward because Birnbaum was just out due to an illness, so he came on in the second half. But the kid did a good job. Again, you're 16 years old. The team's trying to play more out of the back. That's a whole lot of responsibility. That means you got to make those reads. You got to be the one that doesn't jack anything up, because if you mess it up, that's you putting the keeper one-on-one in a horrible situation. And for the most part, I don't think he had any glaring issues outside of the penalty kick, the foul in the box. And one of the things he talked about after the game was he loved how his teammates, nobody was down on him about it. Nobody made a big deal. Like, hey, you effed up. You did something stupid. It was just no big deal. And I'm sure for a 16-year-old, that was great. The other thing, the kids, I don't know how long they're all going to come off the bench, but the game changed when the three of them got in together, and they wreaked havoc on Toronto's back line. I'm sure maybe some fatigue had to do with it, but I think a lot of it is they all have good size. The last thing you want after playing like 90 minutes is fresh little kids coming in and running around. Ray Carter and myself talk about this on the NBA side. Some of the worst teams to play in the middle of a long season, the teams with kids. They don't get tired. Their legs are different. They just different. Their lungs are different. You think about in the back line of soccer, last thing you want to see is a little kid just full of energy and pace running at you. I don't got time for that. But it was good to see them come in and have an impact. It was a solid start to the season. Obviously, you get 3 points after going down a goal. We'll see how things go. A lot to clean up. We're not crowning anybody, but they've kind of been much like Northern Women's, kind of like people throwing shade on them coming into the year, not expecting too much. DC United's kind of in that box where teams are just national writers and folks are kind of just like, yeah, it's whatever. Whatever they do, Rooney's leaving after the year, blah, 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 blah. There's not too much talent, whatever. So that's where they are. But again, they're 1-0. They have 3 points. Good start to the season. All right, on to rapid fire. Cardo is not here. However, he sent some questions. So we're going to get some of these things up here for you guys. Can't wait to see what you guys have to say. Man. Matter of fact, give me 1 second. I think there were like 2 pictures I forgot to add in here. Here we go. That's what I forgot to add. We got 2 questions. We're going to start in the first 2 questions. I think we'll start in the NBA. All right. The Toronto Raptors, they wanted a little more depth at the 2 guard or the wing spot for the rest of the season. And they lean into a guy that is proven that he can get it done on the offensive end. If you guys were wondering where one Will Barton went after Washington released him, he's on the Raptors because Toronto's Toronto. I would love to hear what you guys think of this fit. But first, Shams and Woj broke this. The Raptors waived Juancho Hernangomez. If you guys don't know who that is, that's a.k.a. Bo Cruz for you guys that watched that movie on Netflix. If you didn't, I'm sorry. You just won't get the reference. The Wizards bought out Barton after the trade deadline. The 11-year NBA vet brings some depth and shooting to the Raptors. He's shooting 38% from 3 this season. He's well-respected in the locker room. In some ways, this feels like a trade-off of a more defensive-minded player who could not space the floor in Hernangomez for an offensive player who will get them points but not be much of a defender in Barton. And one of the things we know that Toronto has in spades is a bunch of they have a type in Toronto. If you're someone who can't play defense, you're surrounded by them because everyone else can for the most part. So I'll tell you, we'll start with you, what you think about Will Barton joining the Toronto Raptors in their record.
I mean, first off, I want to say I definitely got the Bo Cruz analogy because as soon as I was like, oh, Bo Cruz, dang. But honestly, I'm not that surprised. Like you said, like he fits their typical type of guy that they want. Like if you talk about it, like with the defense, him, Siakam, Gary Trent Jr., like they go hard. So I'm interested to see how it's all gonna like play together because it seems like it's more of a depth signing on the wing for them. So, but we know like so many crazy things can happen in the league, and if he get on a heater, it could shake some things up out there in their rotation. So I'm really just looking to see how the coaches want to work him in to everything. But I think it's a pretty decent signing.
Right.
Yeah. More power to him, man. I just hope he had a pretty rough stint here and with the Wizards after coming from, pretty decent situation in Denver. Maybe he'll change the scenery is just what he needs. Because we all know he's capable, but he just had a rough go at it with the Wizards, and it's just like that sometimes, man. It's no indictment on Barton as a player, but yeah, I mean, if they're just looking for somebody just to kind of come in and put up points, that's what he does. That's what he's done his entire basketball playing career. So yeah, man. And we know the guy making decisions over there usually makes pretty good ones. So I'm sure there's a method to it. So yeah, hopefully he can maximize the opportunity and give Toronto the punch they need.
All right. Again, staying in the NBA. It's a tough one if you're a Charlotte fan. Cover your ears and just walk away. You already know what time it is. It's been a disappointing season in Charlotte, and it just got worse. LaMelo's flirted with the injury bug a couple times this year, and this looks like this might be the one that ends the season. He fractured his ankle during the third quarter against the Pistons Monday on a non-contact play. There are no details on what kind of ankle fracture this is, but LaMelo is undoubtedly done for the year. Considering the Hornets have the fourth worst record in the NBA, this is not a short-term issue for them. If they remain fourth worst, they have a 24.7 chance of landing Wembanyama, Scoot Henderson. They're in the sweepstakes. And this is the team that is firmly in the sweepstakes. The hope for the Hornets is that this will not linger over the offseason and he can get into the next training camp and next season just be ready to go. This injury is what Jeff Stotts of if the injury is what Jeff Stotts of In Street Clothes suggests, it may not be that serious. Ray, we'll start with you with this
one. Yeah, man, it definitely sucks to get like a significant injury like this late in the season because I mean, who knows how long it'll linger and it'll interfere with his ability to rehab in the off season. Then he's got to come back. The closer that timeline gets to the start of training camp, it's just gonna have to come back, rehab, then get in shape, then get his legs under him, then get back in the rhythm and all that stuff. So yeah, it's just unfortunate, man, and especially like you pointed out, he's been battling injuries all year. Especially after the season he had last year. He's named the All-Star. The Hornets, I think they overshot their goal. They overachieved a little bit. But yeah, man, it just sucks, man. He's a exciting young player, and we were robbed of him for most of the season due to injury. But yeah, hopefully he come back as soon as possible and get things squared away. And I mean, they are going to get a draft pick out of this, and either one of those guys you mentioned, I think are going to be able to contribute immediately. So, there's some light at the end of the tunnel, but in the immediate, it just sucks, man. They just had a rough go at it this season, and just prayers up to him for a speedy recovery.
for sure. Octavia, thoughts on LaMelo going down for what seems like the rest of the season?
Yeah, it's tough I think it's even tougher the fact that Lonzo's been out all year and now LaMelo's out all year. Like the Ball family is kind of going through it. Leandro probably like, put me in the game, coach. I'm ready. But yeah, it definitely sucks. I believe he is the spark for them. You know, he's a young talent for them, and ankle injuries are tricky, especially like I believe they said this is his right ankle, but he sprained his left ankle 3 times. So he's just having a rough go with the ankle injuries. And like you said, it's definitely even worse that it's happened this far into the season. I mean, he missed the start of the season. He kind of got into a pretty good, decent rhythm. And now he's going to miss the rest of the season. And like you said, having to rehab short period of time and everything and try to get his legs back under him. Funny story. My dad actually knows the Charlotte Hornets coach. My dad actually coaches his goddaughter. So like, I actually kind of had like a small part in my heart that was like, okay, I hope Charlotte is doing all right. So it's tough for them, especially, you know, for Steve Clifford, this is his second go round being the head coach for them. And, you know, it's hard to really evaluate it when you don't have your full complement of players and LaMelo being top tier in that stable. So definitely tough for him, but I definitely think he'll bounce back. I think he's still definitely relatively young, where, you know, his body should be able to respond well. But I do think we're kind of getting in close to that territory with him and these injuries. Hopefully it doesn't, you know, stop him, you know, in the future as far as having these chronic injuries that we've seen to other players that seem to can't stay on the court as well. I hope that's not the type of career he has, because he's definitely a dynamic player, and I definitely want to see him play more.
Yes, like you both said, that's really tough for Charlotte. And I'm anxious to see what not only for him what comes out of it, but for them right now, a whole lot of it right now is just added uncertainty to what you might have been thinking going into the season 1 and then 2. How you feel about where you end up in the lottery. Like what that final result is interesting to me now because of what might now be seen as an injury history for LaMelo. Decisions have to be made. I'm not being devil's advocate or anything. Just, you know, I like to put everything out on the table. Because it's something you're gonna have to think about. I think Cardell Ray and I were talking about recently, you know, maybe he was on this show. I don't know if it was on this show or on with his outlook. Talking about like Zion, what the Pelicans got to do. Those decisions have to happen when people about to give you a bunch of money and you're not available. Like, that's just real. I'm not being mean or anything. Just be honest and real. All right, we're going to finish tonight up with this last one just because it is hilarious. T. Higgins. Again, combine, right? Cincinnati Bengals emphatically let the rest of the NFL know that wide receiver T. Higgins is not on the trading block because fans and some quote-unquote media folks who love having sources and starting trouble and wants to make sure there's something to write about have said that T. Higgins is eligible to be traded, or a whole lot of noise. During his annual session, NFL Scouting Combine team executive Duke Tobin refuted any notion that the team could be interested in shopping the standout receiver this offseason. The team's longtime director of player personnel said teams haven't presented any offers, and if they did, trading Higgins wasn't a thought. Quote, if they want a wide receiver, go find your own. In my opinion, T. Higgins is a good piece for the Cincinnati Bengals. The trade stuff is a little ridiculous right now. Higgins, a third-year player, is about to enter the final year of his rookie contract, which, again, when you think about the trades, I'm not the very brightest, but if he's cost control for another year, what are you talking about? He's one of several players who will be up for contract extensions this year and next, including quarterback Joe Burrow and fellow receiver Jamar Chase. Since entering the league in 2020, Higgins has been one of the most productive receivers in the league. According to the ESPN stats and information research, the former Clemson standout is one of 15 players that have 3,000 total receiving yards. In 2022, the second-round pick has just had his second consecutive 1,000-yard season. Again, this is the guy playing opposite Jamar Chase, and we know the quarterback and Jamar Chase are like best friends already built in. So for you to have 1,000 yards, and you're definitely, no matter what happens in life, when Joe goes and gets in trouble, you're number 2. All right, Joe gets in trouble. He's like, Jamar. I tell you, we'll start with you, and then Ray, just your thoughts on this before we close.
I just think it's hilarious that he said, if you want a wide receiver, go find your own. Like, can't have mine. Yeah, I think it's a little ridiculous as well. But like you said, everybody wants to stir up stuff, and everybody wants I mean, if you see how the season's gone for most teams outside of probably the Kansas City Chiefs, you need some good wide receivers. So it's probably those teams that are very scarce in that situation and don't have a Patrick Mahomes that can make wide receivers just instantly appear to be better, that are wishing that T. Higgins was available. Take it from me, I happened to fall into drafting him in my fantasy league. It was very, very happy as the season went on. And like you said, even with him being a quote unquote number 2 behind Jamar Chase, he could definitely be a number 1 of some of these other teams. But like you said, rookie contract, yeah, I'm gonna ride that out. He's not going nowhere.
Ray, your thoughts on this wonderful topic, because it's combine week and madness and such.
Yeah, man, it's just a whole bunch of white noise, which was made very evident by the Bengals' response. And I mean, and why would he be available? You know, I
better ask me for Tyler.
Like it looks like they're building something over there, and he's a key part of it. So, I mean, yeah, it just doesn't make any sense. But media gonna media, man. Like, so it is what it is. But but yeah, the Bengals made it perfectly clear how they felt about the situation. Yeah, I thought that response was hilarious. And I mean, yeah, go get your own. Like we have ours. We're good. Like we know.
I've been laughing at that response since about like 10 a.m. He was a second round pick. That meant all y'all had a crack at it. Go find your own. Just stop it. Y'all looked at T. Higgins in the face in the first round. All y'all that are wide receiver needy was like, I don't need one of those.
Now you know.
Bengals said we do. Bengals got him, and Chaser was like, like you said, Octavia, Tyler Boyd's, his life becomes interesting. Like, are you going to replace one of your number 2s? Are you going to replace your 1, your 2, or your 3? Let's be serious.
No, I'm asking for Tyler, not T though. Wrong name.
They already let a tight end go because they knew he couldn't get paid. CJ Uzomah, who used to play on the Bengals, I think he's on the Jets. You want to know why? Because they know in a couple years they got to pay them 3 dudes. And the 3 of them are getting paid together. Want to thank y'all for tuning in tonight, man. We appreciate y'all as always. Obviously, we'll be back next week. Just a reminder to catch weekly installment of the Focus TV Wednesday mornings at 9 a.m. on our Roku channel. If you got a Roku television device, it's really simple. All you have to do is type in the search box, the Focus TV, double click OK on your remote. You've added the channel. For local residents without Roku, this Friday at 10 p.m. and Saturday at 4:30 p.m. you can watch it on DC TV. If you're outside the city, or you can also just go to dctv.org and catch it on their live stream there. They have the schedule available for you. Y'all have a great week. We'll see y'all soon.